Cash Flow Diary Podcast, Episode 9.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cash Flow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
Hello out there. Welcome again to the Cash Flow Diary Podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time, make sure that you check out episode number 1 to understand the format of the podcast and how things run here. If you haven't already, make sure you pick up your complimentary copy of our wholesaling guide, Investing Made Easier Wholesaling. It's now available. It's on the website. You can definitely download it, listen to it. Some of you have already started to respond. Thank you for that information and making it better. Glad that you are here. Make sure, though, that you do the information. Don't just read it. Make sure you go through the exercises. Make sure that you know what it is that you're doing, and make sure that your name is on the list so that when we are doing live webinars where you get to ask me questions directly about how to take your wholesaling to the next level based upon the information that we're sharing, you get the opportunity to do exactly that. So you can go over to the website, cashflowdiary.com. Make sure you place your name in the box and you will be able to get started immediately. It will be delivered to you immediately. And through that ebook, I'm breaking down the information that you need to be able to begin, if not complete, a wholesale transaction in a very, very simple, direct, easy to follow format. Do the exercise, listen to it, move at the speed of instructions, and I think you'll find some success. Today, we're going to talk about something that I consider to be quite important indeed. It's a process that is necessary for all successful people to go through, something that you may have faced in the past, something that you may be facing right now. I can tell you it's something that I faced within just the past few days/weeks. And I want to make sure that you understand, as Cash Flow Diary podcast listeners, I'm just sharing from what is going on in my life as I continue to build the portfolio of real estate that I have, continue to maintain it, continue to raise more capital, continue to do all the things that it is that we do in order to make this thing grow. And hopefully you can benefit by listening. So today we're going to talk about how to deal with your emotions and discouragement and still find success. Many of us know how to deal with our emotions and discouragement and find no success. So today we're going to talk about how to still find success in that case. Before we do, we're going to start with a very simple quote related to this from Francis Scott P. Fitzgerald. That's right, F. Scott Fitzgerald. Yes, he is related to the individual who created the national anthem, but right now I'm talking about the American author of novels and short stories. Many of us probably know him as the author of The Great Gatsby. That's definitely his most famous work, but he does have others. Here's the quote: "Never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat." I'll say that again. Never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat. Because if you understand the nuances within that statement, a failure is only apparent. A failure or a defeat can seem or feel fatal. That doesn't mean that it is, unless you choose to let it mean that it is. We'll talk more about that as the show continues. Before we do and get into our main topic today, I want to make sure that you are aware of an article in the news. We're going to take a dip in the news, and I found it very, very interesting, so I want to share it with you. It was on moneynews.com. It was simply 5 shocking retirement facts, and the 5 shocking retirement facts that's reported by this article by Christian Hill are the following. It says 46% 40% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. That's according to the Employment Benefit Research Institute. 40% of baby boomers now plan to work until they die. That's reported by AARP. 36% of Americans say they don't contribute anything at all to their savings. That's according to CNBC. 87% of adults say that they are not confident about having money for a comfortable retirement. And that's, I guess, according to the website lifehappens.org. And expected retirement age is up to 67 from age 63, according to Zero Hedge. So those 5 basic statistics. Now, many of you know the DIP process. You've heard it before. It's where we're going to take these data points and talk about the information that we can glean from them, and then take that to the next step over to interpretation, i.e., what can we do about it to be able to help and develop a business and idea that solves this particular challenge and or problem. Well, if you continue to read the article, part of the challenge with this particular article and just things that I had with it is simply because there's a part of the article that talks about how others blame someone else for their problem. Now, here's the problem with that. When we do that, when we blame someone else, we are therefore disempowered from being able to actually resolve the problem. And it misidentifies the problem. The problem isn't that the money isn't saved. The problem isn't that your retirement plan might not have what it needs in it. The problem is a lack of financial education. And with financial education, that challenge can be easily overcome. The next thing is value is perception, and perceived utility is very, very much valuable. Understand that value is always in the eyes of the beholder. Now, here's the question, though. Do you perceive and believe that what you're investing or providing as a product or service has utility value? Oftentimes, when we fail to ask ourselves that question, we don't understand what our money is doing and is it really helping and or solving a problem. Okay, so that's taking it to the information stage. Let's talk about those data points just to make sure that we're still on the same track, though. So what do we do now that we know that, there's a lot of individuals out there who have less than $10,000 saved for retirement, and that baby boomers plan to work until they die? 36% of Americans say they don't contribute anything at all, and 87% of adults say they're not confident about having enough money for comfortable retirement. The question is do you know of a product or service that you could create and run and manage to be able to go out there and solve any of these problems? So let's talk about it for a second. It says 40% of baby boomers plan to work until they die. Do you think that was their plan at the beginning? Probably not. So is there a investment vehicle? Is there something out there that you could create to be able to solve that problem? 36% of Americans say they don't contribute anything. Do we need them to contribute according to your business? And 87% say they're not comfortable having money for a comfortable retirement. Here's a very important concept. One of the things that I enjoy about real estate is, like as the podcast is named, Cash Flow Diary, is the fact that it is cash flow. So that money comes in, whether or not you're working, whether or not you're awake, whether or not you're in the hospital, honestly, whether or not you're alive. All of those things, there's nothing that you should be able to do inside of your cash flow producing business to actually stop the money from finding you. You could move. You could change your address. You could go to another country. The money should still find you at some point, somewhere, somehow. And that's amazing. Now, here's the point. What is enough money? See, most people, when they say they're not confident about having money for a comfortable retirement, they're thinking of a pile of cash. And if you've seen some of the YouTube videos or you've taken advantage of the complimentary courses and things that we've done, you understand that piles of cash is not where it's at. It's streams of cash that we're looking to develop. More specifically, our cash flow creation system talks about the ability to create and build a personal cash flow pipeline, which literally brings cash to your door. That's exactly what many individuals need. And guess what that takes? That takes financial education. So here's an idea. Let's talk about an interpretation. So what this article is really saying, it's saying that if you can come up with a service that can help people figure out a way to not have to work until they die, that can help them alleviate their lack of ability to save and help them overcome the challenge of needing a big pile of money for a comfortable retirement, you might be able to have some customers out there. So what this article really has done, it has identified a group of customers that are easy to find. It has identified them by age. It has identified them by socioeconomic status. It has told you what they have, or more importantly, in this case, what they don't have. So now you can tailor your marketing materials to answer or find those particular individuals. So what do you present to them? Well, what if you developed a solution whereby someone could easily obtain a rental property because you negotiated seller financing on a single family house that allowed them to use non-recourse financing to be able to actually own that particular property? That's a simple solution that solves a lot of this challenge. And what if that was possible? You can't say there aren't some people out there, because there are. The articles identified them. It didn't say everyone, but it did say that there are some people out there whom that idea, that's just one of many ideas, would be perfect for. And that's what you want to begin to do. That's one of the things that I began to do at the beginning of my investing careers, was looking for individuals who had challenges that could be solved using real estate in some strategic way. And that exactly what I just suggested to you is exactly what myself and a couple of other guys I started working with were able to do to be able to create some financial success. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what emotions we have to deal with when it comes to our main topic, because all of us understand that we are emotional beings. We have emotions. Sometimes they play tricks on us. But what are some of the emotions that we have to deal with? Well, some of those emotions that we have to deal with are quite honestly and simply fear, right? We have fear. We also have greed. We have discouragement. And the question is how can we deal with those emotions and still find success? Well, one of the basic concepts that I always want to remind myself and others of is that having these emotions, sometimes we tell ourselves that we cannot be afraid, and that actually isn't true. It's okay to be afraid. It's how you respond to these emotions. Understand, individuals that are more successful than you, let's say, I don't know, Donald Trump, President Obama, or anybody, whoever you consider to be successful, it's not like those individuals are suddenly free from fear. It's not like those individuals have never experienced discouragement. That's not the case. The case is that they've learned how to discipline themselves in their response to the same stimulus. And that's what's important now. So when it comes to fear, I know for myself, one of those examples, or when it comes down to fear for you as a cash flow investor, one of the times that you're going to experience this is usually on the buying side, when you're just afraid to, quote unquote, pull the trigger, afraid to get started, afraid to make it happen. I know for me, I have an example. I remember, if some of you may remember, a company by the name of Palm Computing, I believe is what they were named at one time, having a result for me. I had a opportunity at at their initial public offering. And in this particular case, I was afraid, did nothing. And what usually happens when we get afraid and do nothing, it tends to result in nothing new, no new experience. And we always then have that opportunity to say to our grandkids, I remember back when I was. And don't we all have enough of those I woulda, shoulda, couldas already? But that's usually what that is. Anytime you've said to yourself, woulda, shoulda, coulda, it's probably because you responded to your own fear in a way that prevented you from having just a new experience. Sometimes you run into people that say that they have 20 years of experience doing something. Well, I challenge that statement. Oftentimes what they really are saying is that they've done the same thing for 20 years. I would rather have 20 years of different experiences and therefore have 20 years of experience. Some people have been having the same experience for 20 years, and that's not exactly fun. Or another emotion like greed, right? For example, for this can come up when you're on the selling side most of the time. However, it could also come up on the buying side. I can remember a time for me, I was negotiating on a 12 unit building, and there was a $5,000 delta in the purchase price between myself as the buyer and the seller. And I promise you, I wanted to walk away. It was a $5,000 delta. Now, mind you, the $5,000 was the difference between, I believe at the time, he wanted $30,000. I said 25. Some of you, if you understand how real estate works, especially a 12 unit building, really, are you going to argue the difference between $25,000 and $30,000 when it has a replacement cost value of well over $800,000? Well, I promise you, I was arguing it. However, fortunately, I had a friend with me who was able to help me see the error of my ways. And because I responded differently in this particular time, through advice and counsel, etc., we were able to go ahead and purchase that particular building. And by the way, today, do I care whether it was $25,000 or $30,000? Not really. In the grand scheme of things, in this particular case, it's okay. So what about discouragement? Well, I can remember recently as well, discouragement typically happens when you're emotionally invested in a property for all the wrong reasons. I can remember a 18 unit building in which that was very much the case for me because I just wanted to try out constructing a laundry room for the first time, and I did not get the bid. I remember that very, very, very clearly. And here's the good news. From discouragement, we have the opportunity to develop patience. And with that patience comes also maturity and character and growth and all those wonderful things that you now want to hear when you're feeling discouraged because you just wanted what you wanted in the first place. Anyway, what was unique about this time, though, however, is that I still actually ended up with that particular building simply because the other person who had originally beat me to it, their escrow deposit did not clear, thus allowing me an opportunity to, quote unquote, swoop in and save the day for the seller, close the transaction, and that was awesome, quite as well. So, here's the question. Have you ever thought about techniques on how to handle these very emotions? What is it that you're going to do when you experience them that's going to allow you to overcome them? Because what I'm saying to you is that in your journey to build your personal cash flow pipeline, in your journey to do real estate, in your journey to even get that first $20 of passive income, you're going to experience these emotions and probably more. We're going to talk about that in a second. Right now, I want to review what our cash flow question was from last time. Our cash flow question from last time was, what is trade in high volumes at prices that are considerably at variance with intrinsic values called? I repeat, what is trade in high volumes at prices that are at considerable variance with intrinsic value called? Now, that's a fancy way of saying that people are paying a whole lot of money for something that probably isn't worth that. It's called an asset bubble. Excellent. Now, this week, the question is simply, in what country? Now, see, I just came back from here, so I'm still excited about it. And some of you, if you've seen the Facebook or if you follow me there or maybe even over to the website, you probably will get hints as to where this is because you've seen the pictures, etc., that I've taken already. Anyway, it says, in what country is the island located that Madonna references in her song La Isla Bonita, the song that came out on her album True Blue back February 25th, 1987. Again, I repeat, in what country is the island located that Madonna references in her song La Isla Bonita? It was on her album True Blue, came out February 25th, 1987. 7. I know it won't necessarily increase your financial IQ. I just think it's a really, really cool real estate question, especially since if you've ever been there, you know exactly why she calls it La Isla Bonita. Anyway, let's get back to it. Here's some quick techniques that I have used to be successful at dealing with my own emotions to stay focused. One of them is that I keep a specific success journal. It's a technique that I learned in a seminar, and it works very, very well. And it also could work very well to change your state. It's like what Tony Robbins always talks about changing your state or putting you in a peak mental state, or just honestly changing your state from anything from what it was to what you need it to be. So I have a journal, and inside that journal, I don't really write much except the answer to this question. The question is, today, 5 reasons I am successful are. And when you answer that, you answer today 5 reasons that you are successful. For example, one of those reasons could simply be that you got up on time when you said you were going to get up. One of those reasons could be that you spent time with your kids because when you said you were going to do that. One of those reasons could be, hey, I made that prospecting call, or I closed that deal, or I wrote that offer. All of those reasons could be reasons that you are successful. Notice how it is phrased. It says 5 reasons I am successful. It's written in present tense. It's written in the right now, not in the future tense. It's not 5 reasons why I will be successful one day. It's what you did today. I find that by the time I get to number 5, I feel much better about whatever was happening because my mind has been forced to find 5 things today that I did that made me successful. Which leads me to the second technique. It's kind of related to the first. It's journal. Get those emotions out. One of the things that helps me tremendously is to just write. It's very cathartic for me. I love to do it because it can just help. And it may not make sense, and it could be very William Faulkner / stream of consciousness. It doesn't matter. Get it out. Journal it. When you've also done that, another very, very useful tool is something many people call a dream book, goal board, dream board, whatever name it goes by. What it should have at a minimum is a pictorial definition of why you are doing what it is that you are doing. Why on earth are you learning these new skill sets? Why are you investing your time and talents into becoming someone new? So that what is it that you're actually pursuing, and is it that exciting enough? And this is those times when you're having those emotions that the items that you've written down need to be absolutely huge enough to help you change again your focus, your mindset, so that you can go back out there and do what it is that you know that needs to be done. For some of you, this will work. I definitely suggest it for a lot. Doing a significant amount of praying or meditation or something of that nature, because sometimes it's just emotions that we have to calm down, and sometimes we just need to know that someone out there is listening. That higher self, that higher purpose, whatever you want to call it. It's very, very helpful for me to be able to deal with the things that come my way so that I can keep going and stay focused. And then one of those other techniques that I find to be successful is to adjust your self-concept, perception, or identity. For example, you probably have heard the late Jim Rohn say something to the effect of that the same wind blows on us all. It's just a matter of how we set the sail. It's the same wind. It's what I was alluding to earlier when I said people that you consider to be successful still have the same emotions that you and I do. They have the same emotions. The difference is that they've learned to respond externally to the same stimuli differently. So that's what's important, is to understand that. But by adjusting your self-concept, perception, or identity, one of the cool things to ask yourself is, WWJD, not what would Jay do? But that could be it for some of you. I've been told that sometimes that helps. But what would that person that you admire, that person you would like to be like, what would they do in this situation? And what would an investor do? What would a successful real estate investor do? And when you start asking yourself that, you begin to adopt that different self-concept, that different identity. How many, for example, one of the things I was taught early is that, as an investor, one of the things you do is you make offers. That's what you do. That's like the job description. It's not an event. Just because you show up to work, you don't celebrate. Ooh, I showed up to work today. That's the same thing as writing an offer. Congratulations, you wrote an offer. Now go write another one because you're an investor. It's what you do. It's who you are. That is part of your identity. So adjusting that can help you see the path or see the forest for the trees, as they say. So see your way through whatever that fog might be so that you can get back on track. Whatever you do, don't try to ignore or pretend that those feelings are not there. It won't happen. You're human. Remember that. It's okay. I just don't like when people try to pretend that things are okay all the time. That doesn't feel good because it's just not real. It's just not. No one feels great all the time, and that's okay. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not trying to give you license to waddle in it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I'm just trying to say to you that it's okay that you might feel that way. At the end of the day, you've got to learn, your own special way of processing these things because, what I use might not work for you, but you've got to come up with something. You can't not have a strategy or a way to deal with these because there will come a day, no matter how good things are going. I don't care how many units you have right now, how many more units you're looking to buy, how good things have been in the past. There will come a day. There is come a day where you will have a challenging situation, but understand this, there's value in fully experiencing all of your emotions all the time. Part of who you are, they were given to you for a reason. Use them because they can be very helpful. What I want to leave you with today is just this final thought. If you've ever been to a Millionaire Mind seminar, you understand where this is coming from, but just in case you haven't, remember this. Your brain is a very, very powerful tool.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.